Oh, welcome. Welcome to a Tuesday afternoon gathering of good vibes, of love, of the Hug Nation. I realized that our experience of the world can be broken down into two things: the now and our imagination. I'll explain. The now is that experience that I was trying to talk through with the meditation, that the now is this moment and the perceptions that we are having, the experience, the sounds, the sights, the feelings. That is the now. That is an absolute real experience that we can have. And if we are surrendered, if we are present, then we live in the richness of this now. And in that now, all things are met, all of our needs are perfect, there's nothing undone. It is impossible to miss something in the now. Missing something requires you to be thinking about something different than this now. There is only this now, and it is perfect. So you can be in this now, or you can be in a story. You can be in the realm of your imagination. And this is where it gets interesting, because your imagination is something that can be, it is like a wild beast that can take you, you can hold onto its back and it can take you to crazy places, or it can be tamed and it can take you to beautiful places. But unless you recognize that, it is very easy to feel like your mind is something that you are prey to. You have to submit to where your brain and your mind and your imagination takes you. But that's not true. And with practice, you can start to recognize that. So let me elaborate on that. So let's say I'm in my imagination. I am thinking about a story that is either about a future reality or not a reality, a future potential, or maybe I'm thinking about a past situation. And let's say the future potential, I'm thinking about someplace that I'm going to go later. And it is very easy, it's very common for us to use that imagination and to get swirled into potential futures that will probably never happen. But because of the nature of our mind, our tendency to just be hanging on to a wild beast as it takes us into crazy places, those potential futures often are anxiety-filled. Fear and anxiety is the result of our imagination just going without any discipline, just taking us to places and having us be prey to this place. And because of the evolutionary path of our imagination, we have this massively amplified focus on scary or negative things, because that keeps a physical being alive in a scary world. And the world is filled with things that are trying to hurt you. Most of those things are not a reality to the Western world of a daily life. Now, if we were living in the woods someplace and our daily life involved, trapping bears, then, well, we would have a different conversation. And maybe we'll talk about later if there's anyone here who's got bear traps in their future. Now, understanding that we have control over that, and that we can then choose where we want these stories to take us, is massively significant into how we enjoy the world and how we experience these things. Now, people will say, well, it's important actually to think about the negative things. You don't want to just imagine everything's perfect, everything's perfect, everything's perfect, because now, I don't know about you, but once a month, this crazy guy who calls himself landlord asks me for a lot of money. So I have to be aware of this future. What I'm talking about is how you tell this story, how you perceive and go into this imaginary world. Because until it is time to give them that money, it is your imagination that is creating that scenario. For all you know, it could not happen. We tend to think and know that it will. So let's say it is going to happen. Now, I can panic, worry, and then at the end of the month, I have to give him money. Or I can think, I'm going to find a way, I'm going to get this money, it's all going to be okay, and at the end of the month, I have to give him money. Either way, the reality of the situation is identical. Now, you know, seems simplistic to think, oh, just think positively. But let me imagine a squirrel. And you say, well, if a squirrel doesn't think about the possibility of him not having enough nuts, then when winter comes, he's going to starve. Now, he can gather nuts with the assumption that now, I guess what I'm saying is that you have this awareness of what's going to happen in the future. You can wrap that in a story of panic, or you can wrap that in a story of imagining your success. Either way, the action that you take in the now is the same. Either way, as a squirrel, you are going to go get nuts, as many as you can to survive this winter. If you think, oh, there's never going to be enough, my nuts are going to rot, someone's going to steal them, I'm going to starve. Or if you say, I'm going to have plenty of nuts, this winter's going to be great, I'm probably going to have all that I need. Either way, as soon as you're done with the thought, you go out and start looking for nuts. Did I just lose things? And so the functional process of the action you take is the same. The difference is having discipline on your imagination as you create this story that illuminates the future. Now, this is an unfair metaphor because squirrels don't have imaginations. Humans have imaginations. Humans have the evolutionary gift of imagination, and that's what allows that's what allows Homo sapiens to look at a track in the ground and go, ooh, I think I know where this came from. I think I know what it is, and I think I know where it's headed. Let's go get some dinner. And that puts our species in this huge evolutionary advantage. It is a massive gift and a massive liability because of that what we're just talking about how the imagination can take us into these stories of panic and fear about futures that may or may not ever happen. Now, when this gets really interesting to me is recognizing that how different is the perception, the experience of something, and the imagination of that thing. Now, let's say a cat, a black cat with this really long fur, walks in front of you, turns to you, meows, and then keeps walking. Now, did any of you who are listening have that happen to you? Probably doubtful, but I think all of us pictured it. Imagine the taste of a dill pickle. Imagine crunching it. Now imagine taking a peppermint, a candy cane, and adding that to your mouth and crunching that with that pickle. Can you imagine that? Does that sound like something that would taste good? Probably not. And yet, have any of you actually tasted that combination? That's remarkable. Our imagination, our brain is able to create and imagine and live in these mental experiences of things that we've never experienced. Think about how powerful that is and how dangerous that can be. Because when we have the tendency to go to negative places, it is so easy to create these scenarios that have never happened, will never happen, but we experience them, whether it is a taste, whether it is a fear, whether it is an anxiety. Something that I go to all the time is something that I'm challenged with is driving and being in traffic and being in rush hour and the tension of that. I actually have a good friend who just decided, you know what, I don't like who I am when I drive. I'm done. I'm on a spiritual path, and as of yet, I have not mastered my emotions enough to drive and not lose my center. So I'm done driving. But because the place that I like that serves veggie pho is too far to walk, I have to keep driving. And so I think driving is an exceptional chance to practice. Because I think we've all been in the scenario. Let's say we're in traffic. You're behind schedule. Your lane's going the slowest. There's somebody that's going into the shoulder to get ahead of you. And it's like, my go so quickly to, you motherfucker! Do you think that I'm not in a hurry too? You think that we're all not going to the same place? Why do you think, yeah, we're on the same team? Nothing makes separateness more profound than traffic and driving in our little isolated metal worlds. Ooh. But from that place, what an opportunity to practice this idea of what is our imagination doing. Now, if I am in that traffic jam and I spend the entire time thinking about, I'm going to get to work, I'm already going to be late, I'm going to walk into that meeting, boss is going to be there, everyone's going to look at me funny, I can almost feel as I think about it, I can feel like the hair on the back of I can feel my tension, I can feel the embarrassment, I can feel my face getting flush as I'm thinking about how that's going to feel. I can go through that scenario over and over and over, and as I'm getting later and later, it's getting more and more profound. I'm getting more and more angry at the guy who cut me off, and I'm getting more and more pissed off at this person that got in an accident. How dare they hold us all up? Now, in the same scenario, I can go, okay, I have to get to work. I have this option. So I can think about, my imagination can draw into this present a different story, a different memory or scenario. I could bring in a memory of the kids that I had breakfast with this morning. I could draw in a memory of a movie that I watched that was so pleasant. I can imagine this guy that just scooted by on the shoulder, that he's on his way rushing to the hospital to donate bone marrow and save a life, and I feel so good that I allowed that good deed to happen. Either way, I'm going to get to the office at the exact same time. But in one scenario, I'm suffering the entire time. In the other scenario, I am enjoying the ride. Now, there's a great line in Julius Caesar that I mention all the time by Shakespeare, which says that a coward dies 1,000 deaths and a hero dies just once. And what that means is that when we allow our undisciplined mind to go into these fear stories, go into these anxiety places, every time we imagine that, just like we imagine the cat, just like we imagine the pickle, we experience it. We have the emotional and physical and memory response to that story, to our imaginations. It's incredibly powerful. So if you are cowardly, if you are undisciplined with your thoughts, you allow yourself to have thousands of deaths all day long, every day, as you imagine these scenarios that will probably never happen. Whereas the hero is the one who holds that fear, allows himself to be present with what is real, and then when it is time to walk in the boardroom and the meeting's going on and face the boss, they deal with that once. They have a single death, a single painful experience, if it is so. And as I think we grow, we recognize that almost never is the reality of the scenario playing out as bad as our brain and our imagination will make it so. I remember, what was it, a couple years ago when that, Captain Sully, the guy who landed the plane in the Hudson, and I remember seeing an interview with him, and the interviewer was like, what were you thinking about? Were you worried about all the people and all the passengers and all these lives at stake, and were you worried about what happened to this and what happened? And he was like, no, I didn't think about that at all. All I thought about was what I needed to do and how I was going to do it, and then I made that happen. Now, his job, and thank goodness he's good at it, was that of hours and hours and hours and hours of just being behind the wheel. When it is time for a crisis to happen, his job is to command and be disciplined in those thoughts and not let his imagination go to these dark places. His imagination instead visualizes the correct trajectory, speed, everything he needs to do. And because of that, that's heroic, quite literally in this situation. But as we go through our lives, we are constantly in that situation, constantly in the situation of having to go, do I waste brain cycles in imaginary pain? Do I let this beast take me to places that are non-productive and painful, little deaths? Or do I practice being heroic? Do I practice pulling myself out of these stories? Because as I said, there's only two things that can be happening. You can be in the now, or you can be in a story, in your imagination. And in the now, it is almost impossible to be depressed, to have anxiety. To be present in the now, you are receiving this bounty of all. This recognition of the miracles and everything. If you aren't in that state, you're probably in a story of some sort. And if you're depressed, if you're scared, if you are anxious, you can be pretty sure that you are in your imagination and it's taking you a place you don't want to go. So with those understandings, anytime you're unhappy, you can go, oh, I'm using my imagination for bad. What are the thoughts that I'm having that are irrational or unnecessary, and how can I pull back to either the now or steering that thought to a way, oh, let me imagine how this could work out perfectly. The culture, your instincts, maybe your media has encouraged you to think that that's irresponsible. But sit with it. There's nothing productive. There's nothing safer. There's nothing that happens when you stay focused on a negative thing that makes the situation play out any better than if you imagine it positively. On the contrary, by imagining it positively, you actually are opening yourself up to seeing the ways that it can work out better. And if you believe in law of attraction at all, you are inviting in the good. Whereas worry is using law of attraction in a negative way and inviting in and actually opening yourself to the negative things. So, as we share this now, I say thank you. As we allow ourselves the stories in our imaginations, I say, let's practice. Practice being disciplined. Practice taming the beast so it can take us to all of our rich memories that we can bring into the now whenever we want. Memories of people. Even people that are no longer on this planet. Let's for just a second. Is there someone in your life that you've lost that's no longer alive on this planet, but you remember them? Can you hear their voice in your head? Can you remember some beautiful memory, maybe a smell, an activity? And as you see that in my head, I can see my grandpa. I can hear him laughing. And as I experience that, as my imagination, with my help and discipline, as I take it into that place, I actually feel the warmth. And if we can practice that, then the world becomes something not that happens to us, but is this story that we get to tell and we get to create. So thank you for being a part of this story. Thank you for reminding me what the hero's journey is. Not about any actions, but about our attitude as we take on all of our actions, all of our potentials, always steering away from the negative imagination towards the positive imagination, remembering that this is this massive gift as well as huge liability if we don't discipline it. Thank you. I love you. Let's have a hug. All right, wherever you are, grab your body. This now exists. This is real. Feel that body. It's filled with living cells. It's rehealing itself. It's filled with... Actually, I heard a great thing today that says, for those of you that think that we evolved out of the ocean, remember that we are membranes holding in essence, the ocean. We are mostly water. We are creatures of the ocean that are simply in spaceships of skin. But I digress. That was a story, a positive one. So as we think about this body that we are in right now, we become aware of it, its warmth. The actual function of it, now that I think of it, is all story. But you can think about it in positive terms. It is healing. It is regenerating. It is in its perfect balance with all the thousands of microbes inside you. And beneath this shell of a body is your personalities that often get so caught up in thoughts, in fears, and anxieties. But beneath that is our true self that is immune to all of that, that is in a state of now, that is aware of only that which is harmonious and connected, and that even as things go in ways that we don't understand the story, that maybe be perceived as negative, that in the now moment it is perfect. It is in alignment, and we are vessels of love and expressions of the divine. And all the individuals that we encounter throughout our days, no matter where they are in their story, no matter where they are in their imagination's crazy ride, we know that beneath it all, they too are expressions of the divine and vessels of love, and that we can see through whatever crazy story they have and love them and feel connected to them on that source level. So let's take a deep breath and feel connected to all of that beautiful source. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and all the Love Warriors, Happy Hug Nation! Thank you for being here. Thank you for pursuing the hero's path. Thank you for embracing the now and focusing your imagination on positive solutions, positive outcomes, and a beautiful future. You are love. Thank you for spreading your light. Namaste.
You only live once. Enjoy the color.